Welcome to Deep Dive, an extension of Bringing the Heat with Regina Weston. Here, we explore meaningful topics that inspire discovery, spark dialogue, and drive transformation. More than a podcast, it's your tool for growth and action. Stay tuned.
Welcome in, everyone, to our deep dive, into finding peace in this crazy world.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? It can feel chaotic out there.
Yeah, definitely.
So we're diving into this YouTube video by Regina Weston Redmond called Finding the Peace in a World of Confusion.
Oh, okay.
She's a motivational speaker, and let me tell you, she doesn't hold back.
Right.
In fact, I'm curious to get your take on this.
Okay.
Because she starts by really just leaning into the darkness.
Mm-hmm.
All the negativity we're just bombarded with every day.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because by acknowledging that darkness, the violence, the struggles, even just the constant barrage of bad news,
right,
she's validating something a lot of us feel, but maybe don't always admit. We're overwhelmed.
Exactly. And she doesn't stop there.
Oh.
She actually goes on to encourage us to take a break from it all.
Huh.
Now, I initially thought, wait, shouldn't we stay informed, engaged?
Right.
But the more I considered it, the more I realized she's onto something.
Yeah.
It's not about ignoring the problems,
right,
but about protecting your own mental and emotional space.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think about that?
Well, it's about recognizing that we have limited bandwidth.
Okay.
It's like trying to fill a cup that's already overflowing.
Uh-huh.
Eventually, it just spills over.
Yeah.
And that's where burnout comes in, that feeling of being completely drained and unable to function.
Yeah.
So by encouraging us to take a break, Regina's essentially saying, hey, it's okay to step back and refill your cup so you can come back to these issues with a clearer mind and renewed energy.
That makes so much sense.
Right.
Because she doesn't leave us wallowing in the darkness.
Yeah.
In fact, her message is really about finding the light, the hope, even amidst all the chaos.
Okay.
She talks about the importance of actively seeking out positivity and building a strong, supportive community around you.
Mm-hmm.
This part really struck me because it's so easy to feel isolated, especially when you're struggling.
Absolutely. And I think what's really powerful here is that she connects this need for positivity and community to our ability to cope. She's essentially saying, look, you don't have to go through this alone.
Right.
Having people to lean on, people who uplift and inspire you, can make all the difference in the world.
It's like building a buffer against the negativity.
Yeah.
And speaking of practical advice, she then goes on to talk about focusing on getting through the day one day at a time.
Okay.
I have to admit, when I first heard that, it almost felt too simple.
Yeah.
But then I thought about how often we get caught up in the big picture, the overwhelming scale of it all.
Right.
And we forget about the power of those small wins.
It's so true.
Yeah.
And I think Regina understands that for many of us, just making it through the day can feel like a major accomplishment, especially when you're dealing with difficult circumstances, whether it's personal struggles, global anxieties, or even just the everyday pressures of life.
Right.
She even says, and I'm paraphrasing here, if you make it through the day to fight another day, that's a big deal.
It's such a powerful reminder that progress isn't always about these huge leaps forward. Sometimes it's about simply putting one foot in front of the other, focusing on what you can control.
Yeah.
And finding those little moments of peace amidst the chaos. What resonated with you about this part of her message?
I think what struck me is how she connects this idea of focusing on the day to her earlier point about taking breaks.
Okay.
It's almost like she's giving us permission to not have it all figured out.
Yeah.
To be gentle with ourselves and to recognize that even small steps forward are still steps in the right direction.
And she doesn't shy away from tough topics either.
Oh.
She actually speaks directly to victims of domestic violence, which, given the current climate, feels especially important.
Yes, and this is where her message takes on a real sense of urgency.
Okay.
She's not just offering feel-good advice. She's providing a lifeline to those who might be trapped in dangerous situations.
Right.
Her message is clear.
Right.
Find a way to escape, seek safety.
She becomes a powerful advocate for those who are most vulnerable, urging them to prioritize their own well-being and take action. And I think it's important to acknowledge that for some people, simply getting through the day can be a matter of survival.
Absolutely. And she doesn't stop at just telling them to leave.
Right.
She emphasizes the importance of seeking support, of reaching out to others, of not going through this alone.
That leads right into her point about the power of sisterhood, the idea of women supporting each other.
Yeah.
which I think is something we can all relate to regardless of gender. I mean, that feeling of having someone who has your back, who understands what you're going through, it's incredibly powerful.
It is, and it circles back to that earlier point about building a supportive community.
Right.
Because it's not just about emotional support. It can literally be a matter of safety and survival in some cases. And what I find so powerful about Regina's message is that she's not just talking about this theoretically, she's lived it.
Yeah.
She's speaking from experience.
And that experience gives her words so much weight. It's like she's saying, I've been there. I know how dark it can get, but I also know there's a way out, there's hope, and there's a community waiting to support you.
Yeah.
And then she delivers this line that just hit me like a bolt of lightning.
You're talking about, to everything worth having is worth fighting for. Peace of mind is worth fighting for.
Yes.
Okay.
It's like a call to action. It's saying that peace, both internal and external, isn't something that just happens.
Right.
It's something we have to actively pursue, something we have to fight for.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
It's interesting because it challenges the notion of peace being this passive state of being.
Yeah.
It suggests that achieving peace requires effort, intention, and a willingness to push back against the forces that threaten it.
And to do it together.
Right.
She's really emphasizing the collective aspect of this fight. It's about supporting each other, lifting each other up, and recognizing that we're all in this together.
Yeah.
What do you think she means by fighting for peace?
I think she's talking about multiple levels of engagement.
Okay.
It's about challenging injustice, advocating for change, and creating a more equitable and compassionate world. But it's also about the internal work, cultivating peace within ourselves, managing our own anxieties and fears,
Right.
and choosing to respond to negativity with love and understanding.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here.
Yeah.
We've talked about the darkness, the need for breaks the importance of community and support, and the idea of actively fighting for peace. Where do we go from here?
Right.
How do we take all of this and actually apply it to our lives?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And I think that's what we'll explore in the next part of our deep dive.
Okay.
Because Regina doesn't just leave us with these grand ideas. She actually offers some very practical advice on how to cultivate peace in our everyday lives.
I'm really looking forward to digging into that with you and seeing how we can apply these insights to create a more peaceful world, both within ourselves and around us.
Me too. And I'm especially curious to hear what resonates most with you and how you're already incorporating these ideas into your life. It's fascinating how Regina frames peace. You know, it's not this absence of conflict, it's an active pursuit.
Yeah.
A way of being.
I was struck by how deliberately she uses the word fight.
Right.
You know, it's about pushing back against negativity both in the world and within ourselves. But it's not aggression, is it?
Exactly. It's about choosing love and compassion even when faced with anger and fear. It's about holding on to hope even when surrounded by darkness.
I thought that's what makes her message so powerful.
Yeah.
She doesn't shy away from the reality of suffering,
Right.
but also shows us that we have a choice in how we respond to it. We can choose to be consumed by negativity.
Right.
Or choose to cultivate peace within ourselves.
And that choice is profoundly influenced by our sense of community.
Okay.
Regina talks extensively about the importance of connection, about women supporting each other, about not facing these battles alone. I wonder if that resonated with you as well.
Absolutely. It's so easy to get caught up in our own individual struggles.
Yeah.
And forget that we are a part of something much larger. Her message is a powerful reminder that we don't have to go through this alone.
Right.
There is strength in numbers, in sharing our burdens, in knowing that we are not the only ones facing these challenges.
She uses the phrase, "we are our sisters' keepers,"
Yeah.
which really highlights that sense of responsibility we have to each other, to lift each other up, offer support and encouragement, especially when times are tough.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
I love that phrase.
Yeah.
It speaks to the power of collective action, of recognizing that our individual well-being is intertwined with the well-being of others. But she's not just talking about supporting those closest to us, is she?
Right. I think she's also talking about extending that compassion and support to our wider communities.
Okay.
To those who might be different from us, to those who might be struggling in ways we can't even imagine.
So it's about breaking down those barriers that separate us and recognizing our shared humanity, our shared struggles, and our shared capacity for love and resilience.
Yeah.
But how do we actually put this into practice? How do we take this grand vision of collective peace and make it a reality in our everyday lives?
Well, I think Regina gives us a starting point.
Okay.
Remember her advice about focusing on getting through the day one day at a time.
Right. It's about not getting overwhelmed by the enormity of the task and celebrating the small victories along the way.
Exactly. It's about those small acts of self-care, those moments of connection with loved ones, those conscious choices we make to cultivate peace within ourselves, even when the world around us feels chaotic. What does that look like for you?
For me, it's about finding those little pockets of stillness throughout the day.
Okay.
Whether it's taking a few deep breaths, going for a walk in nature, or simply spending a few minutes in quiet contemplation. It's about reminding myself that I don't have to have all the answers, that it's okay to not be okay sometimes.
Right.
And that there is always hope, even amidst the darkness.
I love that. And I think it also ties back to her point about actively seeking out positivity. It's about making a conscious effort to focus on the good, to appreciate the beauty that surrounds us, and to find those things that bring us joy and peace.
It's about shifting our perspective, isn't it? It's about choosing to see the world through a lens of hope rather than despair.
Absolutely. And I think it's also about recognizing that we have more power than we realize.
Okay.
We have the power to choose our thoughts, our actions, and our responses to the world around us.
Which brings us back to that idea of fighting for peace, because it's not just about creating peace within ourselves. It's about creating a world where peace is possible for everyone.
Exactly. It's about challenging injustice, advocating for those who are marginalized, and working to create a more equitable and compassionate society. It's about recognizing that our individual actions have ripple effects, and that by working together, we can create a world where peace is not just a dream, but a reality.
And I think that's a perfect segue into the next part of our deep dive, where we'll explore some concrete steps we can take to make that vision a reality.
I'm really looking forward to that conversation and to hearing your thoughts on how we can each contribute to building a more peaceful world.
So it feels like we've really been building to this. We've talked about the need for peace, the importance of community, and this idea of actively fighting for what we believe in.
Right.
Now let's get practical.
Okay.
What are some tangible steps we can take to bring more peace into our lives and into the world?
Well, I think Regina offers some valuable insights here.
Okay.
She talks about the power of prayer and faith, which, might resonate differently for each of us. But even if organized religion isn't your thing, the core idea still holds true. Having something to believe in, something bigger than yourself, can be a source of immense strength and comfort.
It's like having an anchor in the storm.
Yeah.
And for some, that anchor might be a spiritual practice. For others, it might be a deep connection to nature or a commitment to a cause they believe in.
Right.
Whatever it is, it provides a sense of grounding and purpose, especially when things feel chaotic.
Exactly. And it's interesting because Regina doesn't shy away from the fact that life can be hard,
Right.
She acknowledges the pain, the suffering, the injustices of the world, but she doesn't let that define her.
Right.
She chooses to focus on the light, on the possibility of a better future.
And that's where the idea of fighting for peace comes in. Because it's not enough to simply wish for a better world. We have to actively work towards it.
Right.
But what does that look like in our everyday lives?
I think it starts with small acts of kindness, compassion, and understanding.
Okay.
It's about treating others with respect, even when they hold different views. It's about speaking up against injustice, even when it feels uncomfortable. It's about choosing love over fear, even when it's hard.
Those small actions can feel insignificant sometimes, but I truly believe they have a ripple effect.
Oh, yeah.
They create a positive energy that spreads outward, influencing those around us and ultimately contributing to a more peaceful world.
Absolutely.
Makes me think of that quote, "Be the change you want to see in the world."
Absolutely. And I think it's important to remember that we don't have to do it all perfectly.
Right.
We're all on a journey, and we're all going to make mistakes along the way.
Yeah.
The important thing is to keep learning, keep growing, and keep striving to be better versions of ourselves.
And to be patient with ourselves.
Yes.
Because building a more peaceful world isn't a sprint, it's a marathon.
Right.
There will be setbacks, there will be challenges, but the key is to keep moving forward one step at a time. So as we wrap up this deep dive, I'm curious to know what resonated most with you from Regina's message. What will you carry with you from this conversation?
For me, it's the reminder that peace is a choice, a daily practice, and a collective responsibility. It's not something we achieve overnight, but something we cultivate through our thoughts, actions, and interactions with others.
Right.
And while the world may often feel chaotic and overwhelming, there is always hope, always the possibility of creating a more peaceful and just world.
Beautifully said, and remember Regina's powerful words. To everything worth having is worth fighting for. Peace of mind is worth fighting for.
So let's go out there and be the peace we want to see in the world, starting with ourselves and extending that peace outward to our families, our communities, and beyond.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We hope you found it insightful and inspiring. Until next time, keep seeking peace, keep spreading kindness, and keep believing in the power of hope.
Thank you for joining us on the Deep Dive Conversations podcast. We hope today's episode offered insights and inspiration to enrich your life. Until next time, take care and keep exploring.